Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of the Lucha Underground Luchador Spotlight. We don't have a luchador to talk about today, but what we do have is El Jefe, the boss, the man that runs Lucha Underground, Dario Cueto, and his horrifying, scary, murderous brother, Matanza.
Yes, probably the most intriguing pair in Lucha Underground.
That's
I
right.
mean,
And if you need proof of that, look no further than the people. The people spoke. We gave them the option of this or just talking about Black Lotus, and literally unanimous across the board. Everybody that gave us feedback on who they wanted us to cover said Cueto and Matanza.
yeah, you guys wanted it, and we're here to provide. I mean, if you guys had listened to our original Lucha Underground 2-hour reviews, which I mean, they're all on the channel, so if you want to catch up before season 2 kind of get hyped, feel free to do that. I mean, me and Ashton would devote some episodes to just wild conjecture and speculation about both Cueto and Matanza in just so many different contexts, what the future held for them, what we could discern from the present, and just all this stuff. So to return to this scene, to return to this conversation, I find absolutely delightful because there's just so much allure to these two guys, so much mystery that we'll see what we kind of trade back and forth here today, Ashton.
Yeah, with these guys, I've been using a relatively consistent template to make our backgrounds for each of the first 4 episodes. I think I'm going to change it up a little bit for this one because Dario Cueto requires special attention.
Indeed he does. Indeed he does. El Jefe deserves nothing but the best. So, yeah, I mean, you want to get right into it? Let's do it.
Well, here's the thing, guys. Normally, in this kind of section of our recordings, we like to just go back episode by episode, talk about every single thing that the person did. But if we do that, we'll be here all day because Cueto is in pretty much most of the episodes. And not to mention, he never had any matches. And there was very little that he did that wasn't just setting up matches. So we want to talk about what he did that wasn't just him setting up matches or interactions that he had that led him to set up matches. So just kind of looking at the personality, I think it's important to point out that he was really like the introduction to Lucha Underground because one of the, well, not the first scene because obviously that was El Dragon Azteca, but one of the first scenes that we saw in episode 1 was him in AAA with a big briefcase of money telling people that he was going to take some talents to America.
Right.
Do you remember that scene?
I believe I do, yes, because that was kind of his vision for Lucha Underground, getting
Yeah.
all these fighters and making them congregate in one place. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoyed that scene, and I feel like that was a really good way to just establish who Dario Cueto is.
Yes, you get a sense right away for who he is and what he's about. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I find it kind of funny, not necessarily ironic, but maybe coincidental, that I'm about to use this phrase because we just spent the last week marathoning through the Daredevil series on Netflix, but Dario Cueto comes off as a kingpin.
Yeah, he does. He does. He
He
has
comes
this
off as the
operation.
type of guy who has all the money that he needs
Right.
and who anything that he wants done, he doesn't need to do it unless he wants to do it because if he doesn't want to do it, he can just pay someone else to take care of it for him.
Exactly. Exactly. Has a complete monopoly on control, on the affluence, just everything. So yeah, Kingpin is an excellent term for Dario Cueto.
Absolutely. So, as far as his actual interactions go, I'm not going to really go episode by episode like we normally do. I'm just going to talk about instances that I specifically remember. And the first big one is that he was the man that kind of brought in Big Rick. Big Rick was his guy. He was, it's almost like he was sponsoring Big Rick. You know what I mean?
Right, because Big Rick was kind of his heavy hitter, his muscle to, maintain the order and make sure that Cueto wouldn't be threatened, in response to the antagonisms brought on to him by Johnny Mundo at the time, because of their tension. So,
Yeah, because let's not forget, at the end of episode 1, he's getting ready to give Johnny the briefcase, clamps it shut, holds it away from him, and then out comes the crew to attack Johnny Mundo, and then Of course, Big Rick trailing behind because he lets his boys do the dirty work before he does the finishing job.
Exactly, and of course came one of many memorable Cueto lines. These guys, they work
Work
for
for
me.
me! Yes, and that's another thing that we need to talk about too. Cueto had three very distinct, iconic lines this season. That was the first one, and we'll get to the other two later on.
All right, so yeah, I agree with you about Rick kind of being sponsored there by Cueto, being the
Right.
heavy hitter. So after that, what happened next?
Well, I mean, that was just kind of the very, very first kind of character arc that we had with Cueto was just him backing the Big Rick and the crew horses and just feeding out tons of money to keep them going. Eventually, though, we got to a little bit darker side because that storyline led to Johnny Mundo stealing the key from him
Yes.
and knocking him out. And that whole thing really was the first thing that got us thinking, okay, what is this key? What does it do? What does it unlock? Obviously, we know what do keys do, unlock things, but what does it unlock? And we would eventually find out that he has a deep, dark secret from his past. His brother, Matanza Cueto, or as he called him, the monster Matanza Cueto. And he keeps him locked up in a jail cell somewhere in the backstage area, somewhere in the temple. We don't know where. We don't know the actual whereabouts of the kind of room that the jail cells are in, but we know that there's at least two of them, one for Matanza, and then he ended up keeping Black Lotus in one. And this is where it felt like they were giving us a lot of Cueto making matches, but really withholding on the actual story and character progression for him. But when we got it, it was huge.
Yes, dude, absolutely. And I love that because you really see the tension with Cueto, trying to protect this key, always keeping it close to him. And then when you start seeing him interact with Matanza more, and you're just thinking, my God, what is he keeping behind that cage? And then the first time you really see Matanza unleashed, it's just like wow. So they did a great job really making that atmosphere, and the interplay between Cueto and Matanza, I just felt was masterfully done.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's another thing too. Like I remember there was one line that he said about how, I would let you watch, but I know what you like to do with what was it, with shiny things or something like that. Or
Right.
no, it was with the belt. I would let you touch it, but I know what you like to do to valuable things or something like that. Like just this whole idea that Matanza is just a destroyer. Just that is just his nature. He wrecks stuff, whether he wants to or not, whether he's got good intentions or not, whether he has intentions. We don't even know if he is human or not. We're assuming he is because he's Cueto's brother, but we don't know if he is like some kind of crazy demon that his father just happened to adopt, so he calls him his brother. We don't know.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the Lucha Underground universe. I mean, not to go down this rabbit hole because I want to stay focused on Cueto, but
Yeah,
because of its mythos, you do extend yourself to that range of possibilities. Who knows? For all we know, his father couldn't have happened upon Matanza from some ancient ruins of some kind of tribe or something, or some dark magic. I mean, you never know with this place. So yeah, all possibilities are open, people.
absolutely. It's also worth noting that Cueto brought a lot of talent into Lucha Underground. Obviously, we know that he's the reason that Rick and Cisco and Cortez are there, but it's also worth noting that he's also why Mil Muertes is there, because again, it comes back to Chavo not retiring Blue Demon. Cueto brought in Mil Muertes to serve that purpose.
Exactly.
Then he also brought in, because after I think it was two episodes, we had Cueto. In episode 3, we had Cueto talking about how he was getting complaints that there's not enough Lucha and Lucha Underground, and his impression of the fans is just glorious. And then he brings out El Mariachi Loco, who we get some backstory on, and we find out that he worked at a taco stand down the street, and now he's in the temple.
Yeah. So he's just like, I guess pretty much handing him the mask, like, oh, you're not working the taco stand anymore. Come on. So yeah, Cueto just keeps bringing these unique, colorful characters in.
Absolutely. And then let's also not forget, and I'm trying to remember, did he actually bring we'll get to it when we get to it. But for now, let's just talk about Cueto's interactions that he had with Mil Muertes and more specifically with Katrina, because these lasted throughout the entire season. There were multiple examples of it happening. And it seems like every time Katrina got in Cueto's vicinity, she confronted him and basically let him know, hey man, we know what you're hiding in that jail cell. And my boy Muertes, yeah, he can handle it.
Exactly. I mean, she pretty much tells, that being Katrina, she pretty much tells Cueto that in the most direct way possible. Much later in the season,
Yeah,
towards the tail end of it, when
yeah.
she says that monster you hide won't be able to stand up to Mil Muertes, and you just see the look on Cueto's face, like, shit, she's probably right.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a lot of tension between Muertes and Katrina and Cueto, and well, Matanza, but he's still behind bars, so.
Yeah, it was awesome though. And as far as Matanza goes, can we just talk about the brief glimpse of his eyes that we got at the end of the season?
Yeah, so well done. You gave us just a morsel, but not enough to ruin the imagination. And
Right.
I love that. It's the perfect bridge. And to me, the best way to describe Matanza for the season, because this is all about a recap and then looking into the future, he was like a specter over the first season because, he was always mentioned, he was always in the air, always on somebody's lips or minds or whatever. And I love that he had that kind of presence because it just shows you what a monstrosity Matanza really is. And then you get a look at those eyes, just kind of shifting back and forth, almost greedily looking for some place to enact some violence. And oh
Yes.
man, what the hell even is that?
And the crazy thing is Cueto isn't even afraid of him. That's my crazy thing because first of all, Cueto has no problem keeping this guy locked up, and then when he unlocks the door to let him out, there's no fear of repercussion like, oh crap, I had him locked up all this time, what's he going to do to me? There's none of that. And in episode 3, he even straight up says, while talking to Matanza, Johnny Mudo thinks he can threaten me. I will not be intimidated by anyone, not even you. And he said it to Matanza.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, and this is something I think you and I started to speculate about, pretty late in the season. Does Cueto have some powers of his own?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I even brought up the possibility maybe we're gonna get from Dusk Till Dawn Lucha Underground crossover, and Cueto's gonna turn out to be a freaking Dusk Till Dawn vampire.
yeah. And you never know, and that wouldn't surprise me at all because the smile he got on his face when Bale's blood hit his face and he's kind of
Yeah,
wiping it off, like, it really does say something. So yeah, I mean, these two, even with scenes they shared together, I think it just revealed not necessarily so much, but just really the depth of their relationship and really of their own psychology, which is pretty sadistic. And coming from me, that says something. So there you go.
yeah, and it's also worth noting. I don't necessarily think we should credit Cueto with bringing them in, but Conan bringing in Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and Drago all in the same episode. Cueto said, "All right, you're getting new guys. Let's put them together and make them go against each other." And it produced one of the, in my opinion, one of the top 10 best matches in Lucha Underground season 1. That triple threat,
Yeah, completely agree with you.
that was so good. And I also want to bring this up. I feel like Dario Cueto's office was almost a character in and of itself because of how many times it was used as a prop this season. Whether it's people jumping off of it or, in a certain guy's case, getting put through one of the windows in it.
Yeah. You figure in that mindset, Ashton, I mean, the deals that were done there, the segments that happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the office was a very intimate space for the
I
first
mean, we've
season.
already established that the temple is a bit of a character in its own right. I feel like Cueto's office is another temple or another character within that character.
I completely agree. Yeah, I'm telling you, like Lucha Underground with the mythology that it's built, the temple and those that reside in it, it just gives me like this lost kind of vibe because I still have questions about what exactly the temple is, as well as obviously who the hell is Cueto and who the hell is Matanza. So I really appreciate the mythology that this show has been able to build and the intrigue it's been able to instill, within the landscape in just one season. Like you and I are both, and I know other people on Pweetop and other places that are just hankering for that second season already.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
January, hopefully.
Yeah, January, baby. Let's get there. Only a
I
little bit
know. From
further.
what I understand, they're going to start filming this coming month in November.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. But I do remember there was a line that I was forgetting earlier. The line was it was about the Lucha Underground Championship. He told Matanza that he can't let him touch it because he knows that Matanza likes to destroy pretty things.
Right.
I thought it was valuable. It was pretty.
Okay.
So
So
that's almost scary just for Black Lotus. Like what's gonna happen with her?
exactly, like she said. But then again, she is in the company of Cueto, and Cueto already from those two examples, like, I'm not going to give this to you because I know you like to destroy pretty things, and I won't be intimidated by anybody, not even you, shows
Yeah.
that Cueto exerts a genuine dominion over Matanza. The question is, though, when you look at television series or movies or other mediums that depict this kind of relationship of a guy trying to control this brute, whether it be Dr. Frankenstein in his creation or, Cueto and Matanza, how long can that control last?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the more intriguing parts of this relationship. So,
And that's kind of really just a really brief summary of what happened with Cueto in the first season too. Because if you think about it, as far as actual segments that he had interacting with people that didn't just involve him saying, "Oh, you want a match? Well, how about if I do this instead?" and the other person being like, "No," and him being like, "All right, fine, you can have your match." I feel like that's really all it was. It was at the early stages, it was talking with Big Rick and paying him out and that kind of stuff. And then towards the middle and end, it was more him just setting up matches with the occasional Katrina confrontation, kind of sparsely sprinkled in between. And then at the end of the season, he went back to Big Rick and he wanted to bring him back into the fold.
exactly. So, yeah, you see all these relationships, coming together with people, falling apart with people, coming together again. And yeah, Cueto always tries to keep his finger on the pulse, always tries to keep the people on a certain leash of a given length. Cueto is a man. He doesn't value people for themselves. He values people for the power that they can protect for him. And yeah, it's just a really defining characteristic of the character. So,
And the one thing that I will say too is I love the mind games that he plays with people. When he goes to each person that's in like a big match that's coming up and he tries to get in their head to make them get really, really like over the top violent with their opponent.
right, yeah.
Like the fifth match in the Drago Aerostar series when he went up to each guy and he was like, that other guy, he's going to do anything that he possibly can to beat you. It's just like, wow, dude, you're trying to get them to kill each other.
Exactly. He loves violence. His propensity for violence, again, another defining characteristic, really, from early on in the season. So, yeah,
And
stirring that hornet's nest.
and now we have to talk about his other two iconic lines from the season. The first one was the $100,000 triple threat ladder match.
Loved it so much. And Lucha El Rey loved it too because I think they released like a 20-minute video of him just saying that over and over again.
I think it might have been more than 20 minutes even, but yeah,
At the most, it was a 30-minute video. I
yeah,
know, yeah.
yeah, it was amazing. And then the other big one was the night that Pentagon Jr. assaulted Melissa Santos. It was ring the bell. He's amazing. It's awesome. He is
Yeah.
so much better than any other heel authority figure in the world of wrestling today. I don't care what promotion you want to throw at me. I don't care what backyard indie promotion you want to throw at me, what country it's from. It doesn't matter. There isn't a heel authority figure in the world today that's more compelling and more entertaining as a character than Dario Cueto.
And I think it really works to his benefit to be in this kind of medium because we've said over and over Lucha Underground is a television show about a wrestling promotion, and working within those confines, I think it allows the authority figure to have some depth, because even if Stephanie and Triple H, they wanted to have some depth in the authority, which I highly doubt, but hypothetically, even if they were, I don't think it would have the same punch to it because it's just not the same format here. Lucha Underground is formatted in such a way that every character could have an enriched, detailed backstory, and you could get invested in it. Dario Cueto is one of my favorite authority figures in a long, long time, possibly ever. And I just want to see his journey continue. I can't wait for his season 2. It's gonna be great.
Absolutely. All right, John, I think this is about the right time for us to move on. What do we want to see? And no, you know what? We're not going to move on yet because we have to talk about the last 5 minutes of this season.
Yes, that's right.
We already talked
Yeah.
briefly about seeing Matanza's eyes for the first time. Let's talk about that last scene when Cueto, it's almost like he is floating out of the temple and the lights are all turning off behind him. And then at the last light that turns off, a red light also turns on at the same time. And then we get the smile.
Yeah. I mean that, and you know what the crazy thing is? In a season that's had, dead people coming back and powerbombing people through buildings, monsters eating other people's faces, that smile might have been the single most off-putting thing all season because the sinisterness of it all just oozes off the expression, and I love it. Like it was just masterful to me. So yeah, like you said, just appears that he's floating. One light comes on as the last one's about to come off, and he just gives you that smile, like we're not done here. We will be back, and it's just great.
And I personally think that this theory is completely off the wall and crazy. But I've even heard a theory that Dario Cueto is literally the devil.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think that's crazy. I think it's good hyperbole to show what extent he'll go to get violence or to achieve a certain end. I actually find the theory of him being a vampire or some other mythological creature that isn't as imbued with those theistic characteristics far more likely.
Well, and I would even go as far as to say maybe figuratively the devil, in the sense that he stands for everything bad. He stands for violence. He stands for, greed. He stands for money. He stands for all of these typically negative things, and yet he's charismatic and he can get people to do what he wants, and he has that power of persuasion. I think that as far as just saying he's the devil goes, I think you could make the argument that he figuratively fits that description.
And figuratively speaking, I wholeheartedly co-sign on to that because he is a man of vice and is apathetic towards virtue, because virtue doesn't produce violence. That's why he wanted to stir up tension between Drago and Aerostar because he saw this sportsmanship and this friendship. He wanted to break it. I mean, I know his end goal ultimately is violence no matter how he gets it, but he figured, hell, violence is always going to be better when the two guys hate each other, not respect each other. So this man will forego anything decent, anything humane in the name of this end. So figuratively, absolutely the devil. Literally, it's a big question mark because I don't believe Dario Cueto's human. But if you were to press me further and ask what the hell he is, the loosest theory I could offer up is a vampire, but I honestly don't even freaking know, and that's the most terrifying thing of all.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about season 2, John.
Okay, well, for Matanza, I'm gonna piggyback off of you here because you originally had this idea and I've loved it ever since. I say Matanza Mil Muertes for Ultima Lucha because I know you've said
Yes.
that before,
They've
and
been
yeah,
building up to it for the entire season almost. I just went back over my notes, and the first confrontation that we got, where Katrina says, "We know the darkness that you're hiding," it's episode 5. They were building to it almost literally the entire season.
yeah, dude. I mean, they're bound to be on a collision course now. Dario Cueto, on the other hand, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this. I think he's actually gonna compete at Ultima Lucha against Angela Fong, or I should say Black Lotus. So
Ooh.
I think Black Lotus versus Cueto because I think Black
No.
Lotus.
See, that's my thing though, John. Dario Cueto isn't a wrestler, he's an actor.
See, he's not a
I
wrestler.
could see, you know what I could see? I could see them getting into like a back alley fight where they do like the kung fu style taping, that's like the kung fu style filming with a bunch of cuts and stuff to make it look better. But I don't think that they're going to have an actual match.
Okay, well, I think that's a fair compromise. I think the point I'm trying to make, if I may, is that I believe he's gonna, not completely, but I think he is gonna taste some form of a comeuppance because I think there's gonna be a revelation made to Black Lotus, whether she's snooping around or somebody tells her something or whatever, that's gonna make her sour on Cueto. And because Lucha Underground is so progressive and they've allowed this breeding ground for intergender wrestling and not really caring so much about the sexes, you can completely do Black Lotus and Cueto in some context, and it's not like you're going to be violating some kind of norm when they've already really stacked the deck with precedent.
You know,
So
The
Yeah.
funny that you say that, because to me, honestly, if they were going to do any kind of physical violence between Black Lotus and Cueto, Black Lotus should just destroy him.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any kind of physical, Cueto shouldn't even put up a fight. It should just be he says something that sets her off and she beats the living hell out of him. And that to me seems more like it would be a good idea for a backstage segment than something that would happen in the ring.
And I would agree. And I just wanted to address this because this is an objection because I try and weigh the pros and cons as best I can of anything I come up with. And I'm just thinking about somebody in the comments saying, well, John, why wouldn't Black Lotus go for Matanza instead? Well, I think the best thing to do to kind of throw the monster off is to get rid of the keeper first. You get rid of the keeper, then you get the monster all to yourself. So I think she's going to want to take Cueto first because he's the intelligence of the operation and he's been manipulating her this whole time. Then when that table is cleared, the next one will be set, and then she'll get her hands on Matanza going into season 3. Because I think they're going to drag that confrontation out. Personally, I don't think we're going to get that resolution for season 2.
I am going to pull a little switcheroo here. Because as much as I love the idea of Muertes versus Matanza and having this big clash of the Titans, and I do think that's a possibility, but just based on the fact that it took them an entire season just to reveal not even his entire appearance, just his eyes. I think our Ultima Lucha match, that if this is a big if Matanza is revealed and is able to participate in a match at Ultima Lucha for season 2, I think that the odds are that it is more likely for him to be in a match against El Dragon Azteca than Mil Muertes.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean the new Donner of the Mask, right?
Yeah, the white hoodie guy, yes.
I do like that. Man, and see, that's the great thing about these guys because, they're just such intriguing characters
And then
that they're almost
maybe for
avenues
the
they can go down.
Muertes match, they could do Muertes Pentagon.
Oh, see, I'm not going to co-sign on to that only because I have my own plans for Pentagon already set up when we get to him in a future episode.
Can I guess what it involves?
Sure.
Puma.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well come out with it since you played the guessing game. I think Pentagon's going to face Puma at Ultima Lucha too. Yeah. And it's going to be amazing.
Is it going to be one-on-one, or is it going to be like a tag style match involving Vampiro and Conan?
No, I think it's going to be one-on-one. That's what I personally believe.
But with Vampiro and Conan at ringside.
Yeah, because, I mean, is Conan, do we know his status for season 2?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't even know if he's still alive. He got slammed in that freaking grave consequences tombstone thing of death.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But, I mean, then again, we had some conjecture about Puma, and it'll be even more interesting to continue that conversation. Yeah.
Or Coffin.
Exactly. Having that conjecture about what Puma's going to do throughout season 2, but we'll return to that territory when we get to his episode. But yeah, I see Pentagon being tied up with Puma, so that still frees up Mil Muertes. At least from my perspective, I'm still going with Matanza Muertes. And then
I dig it, man. I dig it. I'm telling you though, I think when we do get to Mil Muertes, I think that we'll have a lot more to say about him, but we're not going to talk about him just yet. We still have a while to go before we get to him because he is a very big player and he's going to have a huge impact on season 2. And I don't want us to cover these kind of big time, like massive world title kind of guys every week. I want to spread it out a little bit.
Right.
So now that we've kind of talked about Cueto a little bit and Matanza, I think that on Tuesday, we're going to piggyback off of that and talk about Big Rick.
Sounds excellent to me.
And I apologize, not Tuesday, Saturday, actually. Saturday.
Saturday.
So Saturday is going to be Big Rick. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. It's always fun to just reflect on Lucha Underground, talk about possibilities and what might be in the future. And it's exciting, and we're looking forward to it. And we will see you guys for our Luchador Spotlight on Big Rick this coming Saturday. Be on the lookout.